Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Janmadhyasya yato niviyat itaratas chartisva vigyasvarat. Dene Brahma Hridaya Adhikavaye Muyanti Yatsuryaha. Tejo Vadi Madam Yata Vinimaya Yatra Chisargo Musha. Damna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuvakam Satyam Param Dhimahi. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon the Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes, of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations. And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen on fire or land seen on the water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by reactions of the three modes of nature, appear factual although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Dharma Projita, Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam, Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu, Shivadam Tapa Trayon Mulan, Srimad Bhagvatam Mahamuni Krite, Kim Vaparir Ishwaraha, Sadyo Hridi Avarudyate Tra, Kriti Behi Sususabhistakshana. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam, sukhamukad amrita dravya samyutam, pibata bhagavatam rasam alayam, muhur ahoraska bhuvibhavakaha. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire to read Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful. Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Shinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantak Stohi Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhitsatam. To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures, or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad-Gita, is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best wishing friend, and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. Nasta presu abhadresu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati utamasloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. Tadarajastamo bhava kamalobhadayaschaye cheta etarinavitam stipam sattve prasidati. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lust and avarice are diminished. Evam prasana manasu Bhagavad Bhakti Yogataha Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangasya Jayate. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly. Vidyate Hridaya Grantis Chidyante Sarvasamsaya Siyante Jasyakarmani Drista Evat Manishware. Thus Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samagram, understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth, Personality, Godhead. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of God, science of Krishna. Shri Guru Vastakota Paris Ki Jai. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as the cloud pours water in the forest fire to extinguish it. So the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. From my respectful base unto Lotus Street is such a spiritual master who is an ocean of auspicious qualities. Chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments. The spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind. Sometimes his hair stands on end. He feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. I offer my respectful obeisance unto Lotus Street as such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord. I offer my respectful obeisance unto Lotus Street as such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food. Analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasada, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisance unto Lotus Street as such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava, and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. I offer my respectful obeisance unto Lotus Street as such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert at assisting the gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan. I offer my most humble obeisance unto Lotus Street as such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord.
The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he's the most confidential servant of the Lord.
This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities.
This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities.
Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet as such a spiritual master is a bona fide representative of Shri Hare Krishna.
Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance to the Lord as such a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Shri Hare Krishna.
By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna.
By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna.
Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement.
Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advance.
Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master.
Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual
At least 3 times a day, I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of my
At least 3
spiritual master.
times a day, I should offer my respectful obeisance to the Lord for my spiritual master.
Shri Bhamasamita ki jai, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha, Anadiraja Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam.
Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam
Chintamani Prakasatma Sukalpa Vriksha,
Chintamani Prakadasarma Sukalpa Vriksha
Lakshavrite Susurabhira Vipaliantam,
Lakshya Vitesh Surabhira Vipayam
Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambrahma Sevyamanam,
Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambhrama Seva
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami,
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham
Venam Gananta Aravinda Dalayatakshan,
Venam Paunantam Aravinda Dalayata
Marhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam,
Bharam Vadassamasitam Buddha Sundaram
Kandarpakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Sobam,
Kandarpakutika Maniya Vishesha Shubha
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami,
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham
Alola Chandra Kalasadvana Malyavamsi,
Alola Chandra Kalasadvana Madhavam
Ratnam Gidam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam,
Rannam Gadam Pranayakini Kalavilam
Shyamam Tibangala Litani Prakasam,
Yamam Tribhangala Litani Yata
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami,
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham
Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti,
Angani Yasya Sakalindriya Vrittimanti
Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiram Jaganti,
Vasyanti Panti Kalayanti Chiram Jaganti
Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya,
Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigraha
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami,
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham
Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam,
Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarum
Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha,
Adyam Purana Purusham Navajovanam Cha
Vede Sudurlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto,
Vedeshu Durlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhakti
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami,
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham
Pantastu Koti Satavatsara Sampragamyo, Vayoratapi Manaso Munipungamanam, Sopyastya Prapadasim, Sopyastya Prapadasim Yavichintya Tatve,
Sopyasya Prabhadasimya Vichintya
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami,
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham
Ekopya Sora Chayitam Jagadanda Kotim,
Ekvapya Sura Chachitum Jagananda Koti
Yachaktirasti Jagadanda Chayayadanta,
Chakti Rasi Jagananda Chayayananta
Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam,
Dantarasta Paramanu Chayantara
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami,
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham
Yad Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manajastataiva,
Yad Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manujasta Taiva
Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusaha,
Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusa
Suktaryameva Nigama Pratitaistuvanti,
Sukdevyameva Nigama Patitastuvam
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami,
Govindam Adi Purusham
Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Patibhavitabis, Tabirya Eva Nijarupataya Kalabi, Goloka Eva Nivasata Kilatma Bhuto,
Goloka Eva Nivasatya Kilatma
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami,
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham
Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena,
Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilachane
Santakstadaiva Hidesu Vilokayanti,
Sadeva Vedesu
Abhihi Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam, Kalabi, Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Ramadi Murti Sukalani Amenatistan. Nanavatara Makarod Bhuvanes Sakintu. Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramaha Pamamyo. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagadanda Koti. Kotisu Aseshu Vasudadi Vibhuti Binam. Tad Brahmaniskalam Anantam Ashesha Bhutam. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Kotisu Aseshu. Maya Hiyasya Jagadanda Satani Sute. Trigunya Tad Vishaya Veda Vitayamana. Sattvam Pralambi Parasattvam Visuddha Sattvam. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Mataya Manasu. Ya Praninam Pratifalam Smaratam Upetya. Lilayatena Bhuvanani Jayat. Lilayatena Bhuvanani Jayat Yajasram. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Kalabi. Goloka Namni Nijadamni Talecha Tasya. Devi Mahesa Haridama Satesa. Devi Mahesa Haridama Satesa Tesu. Te Prabhava. Te Prabhava Nichaya Vihitaschayena. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Shrististati Pralaya Sadhana Saktireka. Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vivarti Durga. Ichchana Rupam Apiyasya Chichesta Tesa. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Shiram Yata Dadi Vikara Visesa Yoga. Sanjayate Nahitata Pritakasti Hetoho. Yasambutam Apitata Samupaiti Karyat. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Deepartareva Hitasantaram Abhyapetya. Deepayate Vivita Hetu Samanu Dharma. Yastadrik Eva Hicha Vishnu Taya Vibhati. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Yakarna Narna Vajale Bhajatisma Yoga. Nidramananta Jagadanda Suroma Kupaha. Adhara Shaktim Avalambya Paramsma Murtim. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Yasyaika Nishvasitakala Matavalambya. Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadanda Nataha. Vishnu Mahansa Yasya Kala Vishesho. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Basmanya Tasma Sakalesu Nijesu Tejaha. Swiyam Kiyat Prakatayat Apitadvatatra. Brahmaya Esa Jagananda Vidana Karta. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Yat Pada Palava Yugam Vinidaya Kumbha. Dvande Pranama Samayesa Ganadi. Dvande Pranama Samayesa Ganadi Rajaha. Vignan Vihanta Malamasya Jagatrayasya. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Agnir Mahi Gagana Mambu Marudisascha. Kalastatatma Manasiddhi Jagatrayani. Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Vishanti Yamcha. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Yakshakshuresa Savita Sakalagrahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Rasesa Tejaha Yasya Gyaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmota Papa Nichaya Srutayastapamsi Brahmadikita Patagavatayascha Jivaha Yadata Matra Vibhava Prakata Prabhava Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yastrindra Gopa Matavendra Mahosva Karma Bandhanu Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nirdhati Kinchana Karmani Nirdhati Kintu Chabakti Bhajam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Vitti Vatsalya Moha Guru Gora Vasevya Bhavai Sanchitya Tasya Sadrisim Tanamapurete Bhavai Bhavai Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shriya Kanta Kanta Paramapurusha Kalpataravu Druma Bhumis Chintamani Ganamaito Amritam Kata Ganam Natyam Gamanam Apibamsi Priyasaki Chidanandam Jyoti Param Apitad Aswadyam Apicha Sayatra Shiradi Bihi Shavati Surabi Vyascha Sumahan Nime Sardakyo Vavrajati Nahiyatrapi Samaya Bhaje Svita Dvipam Tamaham Iha Golokamitiyam Vidantaste Santakshati Virala Charakati Paye Shishupanishad Kijay Om Punam Ada Punam Idam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnameva Vasishyate Shivashamidam Sarvam Jatkinja Jagatyam Jagatina Taktena Bunjitaha Magridaha Krisasviddanam Kurvan Ivaha Karmani Jiva Chekchatam Samaha Ivan Twayi Nanyatetu Sina Karma Lipite Nare Asuya Namate Loka Andena Tamasavritaha Tamste Pritya Bhikachanti Yeke Chatmahano Janaha Anijadika Manaso Javio Nena Devam Apravam Pravam Asata Davato Jnana Teti Tastatas Minapumata Visvadadati Tadechiti Tanechiti Tadure Tadvantike Tadantarasya Sarvasya Tadu Sarvasya Syabayataha Yastu Sarvani Bhutani Atmani Vanupasyati Sarvabhute Sachatmanam Tatuna Vijagupsate Yasmin Sarvani Bhutani Atmeva Budvijanataha Tatrako Mahakasa Kahasoka Ekatma Manupasyataha Saprayagachukam Avranam Astaviram Sudam Apapavidam Kavi Manisi Paribu Swayambhu Yatatat Yatorutam Yadadas Jasvatipyaha Samabhyaha Andantam hapravisanti ye vidyam utasyate tato bhuyavite tamo yayu vidyayam rataha anyadevara vidya anyadahara vidya anyadevara vidyaya anyadahara vidyaya iti susrumadhiranam yenastad vichachakshire vidyam cha yas yastad vedo bhayam saha avidyaya miritum tirtva vidyayam ritamasnute andam tamaha pravisanti ye sambhutim upasyate tato bhuyavite tamo yayu sambhutam rataha anyade sambhavat anyadahu samiti anyadevah sambhavat anyadahu sambhavat iti susrumadhiranam yenastad vichachakshire sambhutim chavinasam cha Sambhutim cha vinasam cha yastad vilabhayam saha vinasena miritum tirtva sambhutam ritamasnute Hiranmayana patrena satyasya bhitam mukam tattvam pusam apavrinus satyadharmaya dristaye Saneka seyama surya prajapatya vyuha rasmin samaha teja yatte rupam kayanatamam tate prasyami yo savaso purushaha sohamasmi Vayuranila amritam atedam basmantam sariram om kratus smara kritam smara kratus smara kritam smara Om Agnenaya Supatara Yasman Vishwani Deva Vayunani Vidvan Yodajma Chuhurana Mino Buyastam Tenama Utim Vidima Om Tatsat Srimad Bhagvatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, and verse 18. Wait a minute. No, I'm sorry. Verse 20. Yeah, I know. I said yesterday we're going to go over 26 again. And also a recapitulative of last week's homework. You have it with you? You sent it to me? No, you didn't send it. Okay. Anyway, we'll go over it. So, text 26. Pume suretara varutra vimaditaya Klesa vyayaya kalaya sita Krishna kesa Jata karishyati jananu palakshya marga Karmani chatma mahimo pani pandanani Translation by Srila Prabhupada. When the world is overburdened by the fighting strengths of kings who have no faith in God, the Lord, just to diminish the distress of the world, descends with his plenary portion. The Lord comes in his original form with beautiful black hair. And just to expand his transcendental glories, he acts extraordinarily. No one can properly estimate how great he is. Srila Prabhupada. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. This verse is especially describing the appearance of Lord Krishna and his immediate expansion, Lord Baladeva. Both Lord Krishna and Lord Baladeva are one supreme personality of Godhead. The Lord is omnipotent, and He expands Himself in innumerable forms and energies. And the whole unit is known as the one supreme Brahman. Such extensions of the Lord are divided into two divisions, namely personal and differential. The personal expansions are called the Vishnu Tattvas, and the differential expansions are called the Jiva Tattvas. And in such expansional activity, Lord Baladeva is the first personal expansion of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Vishnu Purana, as well as in the Mahabharata, both Krishna and Baladeva are mentioned as having beautiful black hair, even in their advanced age. The Lord is called Anupalakshya Marga, or in still more technical Vedic terms, Avan Manasa Gochara, one who is never to be seen or realized by limited sense perception of the people in general. In the Bhagavad-Gita 7.25, it is said by the Lord, Naham prakasasarvasya yogamaya samanvritaha buddhoyam nabijananti lokomamajam avyayam. It is said by the Lord, Naham prakasasarvasya yogamaya samanvritaha. In other words, He reserves the right of not being exposed to anyone and everyone. Only the bona fide devotees can know Him by His specific symptoms. And out of many, many such symptoms, one symptom is mentioned here in this verse, that the Lord is Sita Krishna Kesha, or one who is observed always with beautiful black hair. Both Lord Krishna and Lord Baladeva have such hair on their heads. And thus, even in advanced age, they appeared like young boys 16 years old. That is the particular symptom of the personality of Godhead. In the Brahma Samhita it is stated that although He is the oldest personality among all living entities, He always looks like a new, youthful boy. That is the characteristic of His spiritual body. The material body is symptomized by birth, death, old age, and diseases. But the spiritual body is conspicuous by the absence of these symptoms. Living entities who reside in the Vaikuntha Lokas, in eternal life and bliss, have the same type of spiritual body without being affected by any signs of old age. It is described in the Bhagavatam, Canto 6, that the party of Vishnudutas, who came to deliver Ajamila from the clutches of the party of Yamaraja, appeared like youthful boys, corroborating the description in this verse. It is ascertained thus that the spiritual bodies in the Vaikuntha Lokas, either of the Lord or of the other inhabitants, are completely distinct from material bodies. Therefore, when the Lord descends from that world to this world, He descends in a spiritual body of Atma Maya, or internal potency, without any touch of the Bahiranga Maya, or external material energy. The allegation that the impersonal Brahman appears in this material world by accepting a material body is quite absurd. That's what the Mayavadis say. Therefore, the Lord, when He comes here, has not a material body, but a spiritual body. The impersonal Brahmajyoti is only the glaring effulgence of the body of the Lord, and there is no difference in quality between the body of the Lord and the impersonal ray of the Lord called Brahmajyoti. Now the question is why the Lord, who is omnipotent, comes here to diminish the burden created upon the world by the unscrupulous kingly order. But He actually descends to exhibit His transcendental activities in order to encourage His pure devotees who want to enjoy life by chanting the glories of the Lord. In Bhagavad-Gita 9.13 and 14, it is stated that the Mahatmas, great devotees of the Lord, take pleasure in chanting of the activities of the Lord. All Vedic literatures are meant for turning one's attention toward the Lord and his transcendental activities. Thus, the activities of the Lord in his dealings with worldly people create a subject matter for discussion by his pure devotees. Okay. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When the world is overburdened by the fighting strength of kings who have no faith in God, the Lord, just to diminish the distress of the world, descends with his plenary portion. The Lord comes in his original form with beautiful black hair, and just to expand his transcendental glories, he acts extraordinarily. No one knows how great he is. Okay, so the homework last week, I think, was to explain what is actually real success in life. This is what is misunderstood by almost everybody in the world. We can safely say that just about everyone has a false concept of what is success, and therefore they use all their energy trying to attain economic development and sense gratification, and basically waste their whole life. And at the end of life, they're confused, and they're so attached to material things, and they've had a life of mixed bag of pious and impious activities. Therefore, they have to take birth again and start all over. So that's not very intelligent. Starting all over again with a mixed bag of karma, good and bad, is very dangerous. And if their pious activities were pious activities with attachment to the result, to enjoy the result, then that's also negative. It's not actually positive. And therefore, and if they did some sinful activities, even though they were supposed to be pious people, then they could take birth as animals or insects. So it's not a good proposition. One must finish this job in this lifetime if one is intelligent. And even in the Bible, although they reject the idea of reincarnation, but that doesn't mean that Jesus rejected reincarnation. It just means that his disciples or later leaders of Christianity rejected it for some reason or other. But Jesus did emphasize, I will come like a thief at night to take your soul. So in other words, he made it very clear that people should really do everything they can to go back to Godhead in this lifetime, because he's going to come like a thief and take the soul and throw it into hell for being sinful. So, or to judge the person based on their piety, and maybe they can go to heaven. But what kind of heaven are we talking about? Is it the eternal abode, Vaikuntha, or is it? And does Jesus have an abode in Vaikuntha? That question can be asked also. Or is it the heavenly planets where there's increased sense gratification and duration of life and material opulence? So all these questions have to be asked. Now, coming back to what the main point is, Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tatvata tyakvadeham punarjanma naiti mameti sarjuna. So Krishna says, the 4th chapter, verse number 9, he says, anyone who understands the mysterious and transcendental nature of my appearance and activities, upon leaving this body, does not take birth again, but comes back to me. So that is verse number 9, 4th chapter. So, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So this is real success, attaining a place in the spiritual world with a spiritual body very similar to Krishna's in many respects, especially in terms of eternality, and basically going back to Godhead. That's success. It's not taking repeated birth and death over and over again, because one cannot get away, one cannot have a pure slate based on love of God, but one always has a mixed bag of pious and impious activities, and even the pious activities, their main reason for doing them was to improve their sense gratification and economic development. So this is explained in the Srimad Bhagvatam, 4th canto, 22nd verse, 4th canto, 22nd chapter, 36th verse, where it says, we accept as blessings different states of higher life, distinguishing them from lower states of life, but we should know that such distinctions exist only in relation to the interchange of the modes of material nature. Actually, these states of life have no permanent existence, for all of them will be destroyed by the Supreme Controller. This is a very important verse. Basically, what is it saying here? In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya-lila, 4th chapter, 176th verse, it says, Dvaita Bhadra Bhadra Jnana Sabha Mano Dharma E Bala E Manda E Sabha Brahma. In the material world, conceptions of good and bad are all mental speculations. Therefore, saying this is good and this is bad is all a mistake. This is Lord Chaitanya speaking to Sanatana Goswami. Now, what does this mean? Well, Prabhupada explains. So he says, in our material existence, we accept a higher form of life as a blessing and a lower form of life as a curse. This distinction of higher and lower only exists as long as the different material qualities, or the gunas, interact. In other words, by our good activities, we are elevated to the higher planetary systems or to a higher standard of life. Good education, beautiful body, good money, good this, good that, everything good. Good car, good house, good this, good that, etc. These are the results of pious activities. Similarly, by impious activities, we remain illiterate, get ugly bodies, a poor standard of living, etc. But all these different states of life are under the laws of material nature. Okay, what are the laws of material nature? Well, the ones that are most apparent are forced birth, forced old age, forced sickness, and forced death. These are the main laws. There are other laws. There are many other laws also, but these are the main ones. And all the other laws are subordinate to these four, or let's say corollary to these four. But these are the four most prevalent and let's say indefatigable. They can't be defeated, right? Of course, you always have these phonies that claim that they're going to defeat it in some uncertain future. But that's a bunch of nonsense. Krishna clearly says, Daivi esa gunamaya mama maya duratya mam evi padyante mayamitam tarantate. He says, mama maya duratya. It's impossible to overcome these laws of nature, birth, death, old age, and disease. So therefore it says, but all these different states of life are under the laws of material nature through the interaction of the qualities of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So we're forced to be in the cycle, unending cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease, and rebirth, death, old age, and disease, due to being influenced by the modes of material nature, even the mode of goodness. So Krishna consciousness is acting on the level of transcendental goodness, not mundane goodness. Because in mundane goodness, there's still a desire for sense gratification and material and economic development and some kind of phony liberation on the higher material planets. So therefore, but all these different states of life are under the laws of material nature through the interaction of the qualities of goodness, passion, and ignorance. However, all these qualities will cease to act at the time of the dissolution of the entire cosmic manifestation. The Lord therefore says in Bhagavad-Gita 8:16, Abrahma bhuvana loka punar avartina rijana mama peti tukunteya punar janma navidyate. It says, even though we elevate ourselves to the highest planetary system by the scientific advancement of knowledge or by the religious principles of life, great sacrifices and fruitive activities, at the time of dissolution, these higher planetary systems and life on them will be destroyed. So even though one is very advanced in scientific knowledge, and they know how to build rockets that can go to even Brahmaloka. Of course, that would be almost impossible, but even if they did it, still, Brahmaloka also is going to disappear and be dissolved. So whatever they would achieve in this life through either scientific knowledge or through religious principles of life, it's going to be destroyed. That's someone said, what do you mean religious? I thought that was what we're supposed to do, religious principles of life. Well, let's hear what Prabhupada says about this. Religious principles of life meaning great sacrifices and fruitive activities. So that's a difference. One can perform religious pious activities, but the goal may not be pure love of Krishna. It may be fruitive activities. Now let's hear what Prabhupada says. In this verse, the words Isa vidvam sitasisam indicate that all such blessings will be destroyed by the Supreme Controller. So, therefore, people worship, they do Satyanarayana Puja, or they worship Durga Mata, right? And when they worship Durga Mata, they say, Dhanam Dehi, Janam Dehi, Rupam Dehi. So, Dehi means give me, right? So they want Dhanam Dehi, give me wealth. Janam Dehi, give me beautiful children. And Rupam Dehi, give me a nice body. And Dehi, 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 they go on a long list of give-me's, right? So that is religious in one sense because they're going to somebody that or a demigod. It's better than going to nobody or going to some complete phony like all these false man gods and women women gods. But still, it's materialistic. So Prabhupada says, the words Isa vidvam sitasisam indicate that all such blessings will be destroyed by the Supreme Controller, meaning Krishna. We will not be protected. Our bodies, either in this planet or in another planet, will be destroyed. And again, we will have to remain for millions of years in an unconscious state within the body of Mahavishnu. And again, when the creation is manifested, we have to take birth in different species of life and begin our activities. Therefore, we should not be satisfied simply by a promotion to the higher planetary system. So everything Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk are promising, we can go to Mars, and eventually we could go maybe even to Brahmaloka, and with great scientific advancement and all that. It's all nonsense. It's all for naught. It's all going to be destroyed, even if you make it to Brahmaloka. No one's going to make it there, but but even if you could, with scientific knowledge, still it's going to be destroyed. So, and you have to start all over again, and you go to sleep for the entire period of Brahma's life because he has his night also, right? So and you have to wait till the next creation to get another chance. But who knows what body you're going to be in and what species. So the whole thing is ridiculous. it's cyclic misery. That's what it is. It's cyclic misery. So Prabhupada says we should try and get out of the material cosmic manifestation. Go to the spiritual world and take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is our highest achievement. We should not be attracted by anything material, higher or lower, but should consider them all on the same level. Our real engagement should be in inquiring about the real purpose of life and rendering devotional service to the Lord. Thus, we will be eternally blessed in our spiritual activities, full of knowledge and bliss. So this is the problem. We don't actually know what real success is. We've been fooled to think that success is Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Larry Ellison and Larry Page, all the Larrys, and Sergey, whatever his name is, and Bill Gates, and the CEO of this company or that company, right? We think that is success. It's not success at all. Even if they could go to Brahmaloka, they would still be failures, you see. But we don't understand that. We're duped. We're fooled. We're in illusion. We think this is success. Big houses and big stool. Say, no, that's not success. So Prabhupada says then, regulated human civilization promotes dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. In human society, there must be religion. Without religion, human society is only animal society. Economic development and sense gratification must be based on religious principles. When religion, economic development, and sense gratification are adjusted, liberation from this material birth, death, old age, and disease is assured. This is a big statement by Prabhupada. In other words, we have to adjust liberation, sense gratification, and economic development based on religious principles. Like, let me give you an example. Like, for example, there's a verse in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita that says, Dharma viruddha bhutesu kamosmi bharatarsabha. What does this say? Krishna says, I am sex life according to the principles of religion. This is an adjustment of sense gratification according to the principles of religious principles. What are those religious principles? It's reproduction. It's the reproductive act in order to engender a devotee, either a girl or a boy. It doesn't matter, but they should be a devotee, and the parents should not refrain from any other sexual behavior, but use sex for engendering pure devotees. Well, you got to be a pure devotee in order to do that also. So, but that desire not to engage in any sexual activity except for procreating pure devotees is a pure desire. So this is the adjustment. This is one example of the adjustment. We have to adjust economic development. We have to adjust sense gratification. We have to adjust liberation and all these goals according to religious activities or religious principles, but not phony religious principles, real religious principles. So Prabhupada says, in the present age of Kali, however, there is no question of religion and liberation. People have taken interest only in economic development and sense gratification. Therefore, despite sufficient economic development all over the world, dealings in human society have become almost animalistic. When everything becomes grossly animalistic, dissolution takes place. This dissolution is to be accepted as isa vidam sita sam. All will be destroyed. The Lord's so-called blessings of economic development and sense gratification will be conclusively dissolved by destruction. At the end of this Kali Yuga, The Lord will appear as the incarnation of Kalki, and his only business will be to kill all human beings on the surface of the globe. After that killing, another golden age will begin. We should therefore know that our material activities are just like childish play. Children may play on the beach, and the father will sit and watch this childish play. The construction of buildings with sand, the construction of walls, and so many things. But finally, the father will ask the children to come home. Then everything is destroyed by the high tide. It'll come in and wipe out all the sand castles. Persons who are too much addicted to the childish activities of economic development and sense gratification are sometimes especially favored by the Lord when he destroys their construction of these things. It is said by the Lord, yes, Yaham anagrinanti harishita danam sanai. The Lord told Yudhisthira Maharaj that his special favor is shown to his devotee when he takes away all the devotee's material opulences. Generally, therefore, it is experienced that Vaishnavas are not very opulent in the material sense. When a Vaishnava, a pure devotee, tries to be materially opulent and at the same time desires to serve the Supreme Lord, his devotional service is checked. The Lord, in order to show him a special favor, destroys his so-called economic development and material opulences. Thus, the devotee, being frustrated in his repeated attempts at economic development, ultimately takes solid shelter under the lotus feet of the Lord. This kind of action may also be accepted at Isa Vidvam Sitasisam, whereby the Lord destroys one's material opulences but enriches one in spiritual understanding. What an purport this is by Prabhupada. It's amazing, right? In the course of our preaching work, we sometimes see that materialistic persons come to us and offer their obeisances to take blessings, which means they want more and more material opulences. If such material opulences are checked, such persons are no longer interested in offering obeisances to the devotees. Such materialistic persons are always concerned about their economic development. They offer obeisances to saintly persons or the Supreme Lord and give something in charity for preaching work with a view that they will be rewarded with further economic development. However, when one is sincere in his devotional service, the Lord obliges the devotee to give up his material development and completely surrender unto him, because the Lord does not give blessings of material opulence to his devotees. People are afraid of worshiping Lord Vishnu because they see that the Vaishnavas, who are worshippers of Lord Vishnu, are poor in superficial material opulences. Such materialistic persons, however, get immense opportunity for economic development by worshiping Lord Shiva. For Lord Shiva is the husband of the goddess of Durga, the proprietor of this universe. By the grace of Lord Shiva, a devotee gets the opportunity to be blessed by the goddess Durga. Ravana, for example, was a great worshipper and devotee of Lord Shiva, and in return he got all the blessings of goddess Durga, so much so that his whole kingdom was constructed of golden buildings. In Brazil, in this present age, huge quantities of gold have been found, and from historical references in the Puranas, we can guess safely that this was Ravana's kingdom. This kingdom was, however, destroyed by Lord Ramachandra. By studying such incidents, we can understand the full meaning of Isha Vidvam Sitasisam. The Lord does not bestow material blessings upon the devotees, for they may be entrapped again in this material world by continuous birth, death, old age, and disease. Due to materialistic opulences, persons like Ravana become puffed up for sense gratification. Ravana even dared kidnap Sita, who was both the wife of Lord Ramachandra and the goddess of fortune, thinking that he would be able to enjoy the pleasure potency of the Lord. But actually, by such action, Ravana became Vidvam Sita, or ruined. At the present moment, human civilization is too much attached to economic development and sense gratification, and is therefore nearing the path of ruination. Ruining this nation, the United States, and other nations that are like that. So, This is an amazing purport. Now, let's ask the hard question. Okay, Prabhu, you just read this. Does that mean I should give up? That I should not try to develop my company or develop this plan or develop that plan for making money or even try to make money at all, like just be a beggar? No, that's not what is being said here, because there are examples of extremely rich devotees. Yudhishthira Maharaj was extremely rich, and Parikshit Maharaj was extremely rich. Dhruva Maharaj was extremely rich. Right? So then, what is he talking about exactly here? Is it double talk or is it clear? Well, the clarity is you can make $1 million a day, but you can only eat about $20 or $30 amount of food. So therefore, if you want to be able, if you have the capacity of making $1 million a day, but you must live like a minimalist. A minimalist can make $1 million a day, but their lifestyle is based on $50 a day. Or even $25 a day. Or maybe even $10 a day. It depends. If you're married, it's going to be higher. If you're not married, it can become very low, almost zero. But you made $1 million. So what do you do with that $1 million? You use it in Krishna's service. Or what do you do with the excess? You only spend $50 or $500 a day for your maintenance. Okay, so the excess, where does it go? It should go to Krishna. That way you're not affected. Just like yesterday I did a program at somebody's house, and after the program the man in the house was speaking to me. He said it was the funeral, it was the Shraddha ceremony for his father. And he said, Prabhu, my father told me two things that are most essential in life. I said, oh really? I said, what are they? He said, there are only two things that no one can take away from you. I said, what is that? He said, my father said, no one can take your education away from you. And number two, no one can take your family away from you. I said, well, your father was trying to give you a good instruction, but during the class, during the Shraddha ceremony, I explained this verse. Nasato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sata, ubayorapi drishtotas, tvanayas tatvadarsapi. Those who are enlightened persons know that of the soul there is endurance. It's eternal, it's sat. And of the body, there's no endurance, and it's asat. So devotees are concerned with sat, and materialists are concerned with asat. So let me tell you something, I told him. Your father was trying to give you the best thing he knew, but he didn't know enough. Because education and family can be taken away from you. Right? However, your soul can never be taken away, because it's part and parcel of Krishna. Therefore, real education is to understand that your soul is eternal and that your body is temporary, and your education and your money and everything, your country, your material identity, all these things are asat. So he was a little bit taken aback because I'm contradicting. For him, his father was the hero of his life, right? And I'm contradicting him. I tried to do it in a nice way, not be too brutal, and so he could understand. So he's living on the basis of those two things his father said. You see? And this is what's going on in society. Kids are being misled not only by their demoniac teachers in schools, but by their own family. The father and the uncles and aunties. Like one time I went to see my family after I was a devotee and dressed like a devotee and everything. And one of my uncles came, and he said, well, tell me something about what you're doing. What are you doing? What's your philosophy? And I said, well, our philosophy is give up bad things and accept good things. He said, what are the bad things? I said, well, it's meat eating, gambling, illicit sex, and intoxication. He said, wait a minute now. I'm going to tell you a real Armenian story now. I said, okay, go ahead. He said, once a question was asked, what is a real ignorant person or a donkey? And after a long discussion, the great sages in Armenia came up with the conclusion that a real donkey or ignorant person is a person who doesn't drink, doesn't eat meat, doesn't have sex, and doesn't gamble. He said, this is what a real ignorant person is. I don't know if that is a real Armenian story or not, but he might have made it up. But this is what we're up against. We're up against people who are convinced of the wrong things, and they want to preach to others. They're preachers. They're preaching these wrong things as if this is the truth. Just like this guy's father told him, these two things can never be taken away from you. Of course they can be taken away from you, right? There's only one thing that can't be taken away from you. That's your soul, because it belongs to Krishna. It's part and parcel of Krishna, and it's eternal. But that is not being taught. And this verse, Nasato Vidyate Bhava, means that devotees should only concern themselves with things that are eternal. And everything that's not eternal should be used for the purpose of eternality, not for the purpose of temporary sense gratification. So, to understand what is really success, it's explained in this purport by Prabhupada. He says, our real engagement should be inquiring about the real purpose of life and rendering devotional service to the Lord. Thus, we will be eternally blessed in our spiritual activities, full of knowledge and bliss. There you go. Srimad Bhagvatam, Canto 4, Chapter 22, verse 36. Now, there's a lot more to be said. I have more things, but I'm going to stop right there. Maybe we'll continue tomorrow. Are there any questions?
The clarification that you said is if the consciousness is on serving the Lord, irrespective of how opulent you are.
Yes. Well, you are not opulent. The Lord is opulent.
Yes.
But if He gives you some opulence, material opulence, you should be a minimalist. A minimalist, right? That means you take only what is necessary, and all the rest you use in the service of the Lord. That way you're not affected by karma. So this is explained in Bhagavad-Gita, 4th chapter, 21st verse. This 4th chapter has a lot of really big points in it. Of course, everything is important in Bhagavad-Gita. But he says, Nirasiryata chitatma tyakva sarva parigraha sariram kevalam karma kurvam napnoti kilbasam. Such a man of understanding acts with mind and intelligence perfectly controlled, gives up all sense of proprietorship over his possessions, and acts only for the bare necessities of life. Thus working, he is not affected by sinful reactions. There it is. That's Krishna's instruction right there. And Prabhupada writes, a Krishna-conscious person does not expect good or bad results in his activities. Yeah, because good and bad both are illusory, right, in the material world. His mind and intelligence are fully controlled. He knows that because he is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, the part played by him as a part and parcel of the whole is not his own activity, but is only being done through him by the Supreme. That's a very big point. We could discuss that another time, but it's a very big point. When the hand moves, it does not move out of its own accord, but by the endeavor of the whole body. A Krishna-conscious person is always dovetailed with the supreme desire of Krishna, for he has no desire for personal sense gratification. His only desire is to please the Lord. He moves exactly like the part of a machine. As a machine part requires oiling and cleaning for maintenance, so a Krishna-conscious man or woman maintains himself by his work just to remain fit for action in transcendental loving service to the Lord. He is therefore immune to all the reactions of his endeavors. Like an animal, he has no proprietorship even over his own body. A cruel proprietor of an animal sometimes kills the animal in his possession. Yet the animal does not protest, nor does it have any real independence. A Krishna-conscious person fully engaged in self-realization has very little time to falsely possess any material object. For maintaining body and soul, he does not require unfair means of accumulating money. He does not, therefore, become contaminated by such material sins. He is free from all reactions to his actions. This is an amazing purport. Okay? So it basically means that you can burn $1 million a day. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as you're a minimalist, as long as you take just the what you would say the bare necessities to keep body and soul together for yourself and your family, and that has to be decided by mutual agreement between the husband and the wife. What is that minimum, right? And at least while you still have kids at home. After the kids leave, then you can readjust that minimum, you see. And then the rest, well, the rest should be used in Krishna's service. Then you're not affected by it, because the money you're getting is often received from people who gained it very sinfully by doing all kinds of sinful things. Therefore, you'll be crushed by that gigantic load of sinfulness transferred to you through the money that you gain, you see. So in order not to get that avalanche of sins, you should just take your bare necessities, and that you have to decide what is bare necessities with a mutual agreement, and then use the rest in Krishna's service. Then you're not affected by that karma. Okay, so we'll stop right there. It's an interesting, this purport is amazing, right? Prabhupada explains so many things here. But it's basically the philosophy of Bhagavad-Gita. And actually, it's the philosophy of Jesus Christ also. I'm going to explain that next time. So every Sunday we make this sort of, summary of what we have learned during the week, but also the homework. So that the homework for next week is finished the homework for this week, and the homework for next week is carefully analyze this Bhagavad-Gita, Srimad Bhagvatam 4:22-36, and map out what your future life is going to be like. In other words, read this and then map out what your future life is going to be like. See, just like kids are mapping out what their future life is going to be like. So I'm going to get my PhD from Stanford, and then I'm going to get a job, and I'll make $150,000 right from the start, and I'm going to invest in this, and I'm going to learn some things working for this big company, and then I'm going to leave the company and start my own company. And this is what a lot of people do, right? And they're working on a new project that's still not completed, but all the new projects in a big company take a long time to come to full fruition. But someone can immediately leave the company and bring it to fruition faster than the big company and make millions of dollars and then sell their company to the big company. This happens a lot. Even though there are all kinds of contracts that say you're not allowed to do this and you can't take any of the property of the company that you're working for, but still people do it. As soon as they see some opportunity that's being worked on, they leave and they start their own company and try and develop that thing. So anyway, that's the material world. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So basically, when I say map out your future life, there's basically two possibilities. One possibility is you're going to get married and you'll be forced to work And because you're forced to work, you have to make money. So you're going to figure out a way to make money, right? And that based on what that verse says, that purport says, okay, I will make money, but I will be a minimalist. And my husband and my wife, or we have to have a mutual agreement what that means and what level it is, and it depends on how many children you have and so forth. And anything above that we'll use in Krishna's service. Right? And the other decision is, I'm not even going to get married. I'm going to remain celibate my whole life and just dedicate myself completely. So those are the two possible possibilities. There's not a third possibility. I mean, you can say, well, I get married and divorced, blah, 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 blah. You know, that's not a possibility. Because if you get married in Krishna consciousness, you're not allowed to get divorced. But anyway, you get the idea. Hare Krishna.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada,
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma.
Shri Guru Charana Padma
Kevala Bhakti Sadma. Bando Mui Savadhana Mate.
Bando Mui Savadana Mate.
Bando Mui Savadhana Mate.
Bando Mui Savadana Mate.
Jahara Prasade Bhai Bhavaturiya Jai. Jahara Krishna Prapti Hoye Jaha Aite. Krishna Prapti Hoye Jaha. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Jite Te Koriya Aikha. Arna Kori Ho Mone Asa.
Arana Koriya Manasa.
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati.
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati.
Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asa.
Ye Prasade Pure Sarvasa.
Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asa.
Ye Prasade Pure Sarvasa. रचे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो
दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो
प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते
होते अविद्या विनाश जाते
प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते
भक्ति जा होते अविद्या विनाश जाते
वेद गाय जहाँ चरितो श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आदम जनर बंधु
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आदम जनर बंधु
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आदम जनर बंधु श्री गुरु लोकना लोकेर जीवना लोकेना लोकेर जीवना प्रभु कोरो दया देह मोरे पाद छया
प्रभु कोरा दया देह मोरे पाद छाया
आहा प्रभु कोरो दया देह मोरे पाद छया
प्रभु कोरा दया देह मोरे पाद छाया
आहा प्रभु कोरो दया देह मोरे पाद छया त्रिभुवाना बेजाज भूषु त्रिभुवाना प्रभु पादइल शरणा जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद जय
जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद
जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा
जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद
नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने
नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवाणी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिव सदि गौर भक्त वृंद
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Pararajagachasta Tarasatara Shishimad. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Dvaita Gadadhar Sri Vasati Gaura Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Samakunda Radha Kunda Giri Godhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapura Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Ganga Maya Ki Jai. Jamuna Maya Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Patita Pavan Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutali Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavari Puskati Satarine Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional source. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. I only wish to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is a perfection and fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and Lord and master of devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread throughout all the three worlds. We take shelter of the lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pacharya Nirvisesa Sunyapati